Not many people know this, but Morgan Wallen actually competed on season 6 of The Voice. Morgan was almost unrecognizable with shaggy blonde hair, a skinny tie, and what some people later joked looked like a grandpa sweater. Flying from Tennessee to Los Angeles to be on The Voice was the first time Morgan had ever flown on a plane, and he didn't even sing a country song for his audition. 2 judges turned their chairs around for Morgan, but Blake Shelton wasn't one of them. Morgan had to choose between Latin superstar Shakira and R&B legend Usher. It was good to see him trusting Usher as his coach. Morgan said, "I'm gonna have to go with my man, Usher." Although Blake would later go on to judge Morgan for something, because he had an issue with Morgan's signature mullet. He was interviewed by 100.3 The Wolf after Morgan struck country music gold, and Blake joked that Morgan's mullet, at the time, was pretty weak. Blake also said of Morgan's haircut, "I want to see it get down to about the middle of his back. Like me and, Tracy Lawrence." Morgan's fans know that he recently shaved off the mullet, but Morgan kept some fond memories of getting his start on The Voice. In an interview with People, Morgan said that the whole experience of being on a reality show singing competition kind of kickstarted him a little bit. Morgan was just 20 years old when he competed on The Voice. In his pre-audition interview, he called himself a landscaper from Knoxville, Tennessee. And during his audition, Morgan's most famous fan was backstage cheering him on. That would be his mom, Leslie. Leslie has been a big influence in Morgan's life and in his music career as well. During his pre-audition interview on The Voice, Morgan said that he began singing as a young kid. He was only about 3 years old when his mom put him on stage at church. 5 years after that, Morgan claimed that he was entered into a local singing competition with surprising results. 8-year-old Morgan placed 3rd in the singing competition, and his prize allegedly included a recording contract, but Leslie proved that she isn't a stage mom. Morgan said in his Voice interview that his mom told him, "I want you to have a normal childhood," so they turned down the recording contract. Morgan began playing sports, including baseball, which he claimed he's always loved since he was a little kid. He dreamed of being a baseball pitcher, and during high school, Morgan focused on getting a scholarship to pitch for a college team, but an unexpected setback happened during his junior year. Morgan was playing for his high school team, and he felt something in his body snap when he threw a curveball. Shockingly, Morgan discovered he'd torn his UCL, and after that, his scholarship dreams faded away. Morgan confessed in his Voice interview that he began singing again in church after his baseball injury, and he was suddenly drawn to performing again. He revealed that he didn't have a band and had no plans to do anything else. Morgan called himself just a normal, small-town kid. He even admitted he didn't have a clue how to get into music, but he knew deep down that he didn't want to go home and be a normal landscaper guy again. So Morgan took his shot on The Voice. After his audition, where Shakira and Usher fought for the opportunity to be Morgan's coach, Morgan did another interview to talk about his first experience on stage in Hollywood. He said he had some experience singing in church on the praise team, but he said that his time on The Voice was the first time an audience saw him on his own. Morgan said it was a huge confidence boost to see Shakira and Usher's chairs turning around for him, especially since his baseball dreams had ended. Morgan confessed that he had never taken a vocal lesson or had any kind of training. He seemed to be really excited to see what Coach Usher had in store for him. It sounded like a good start for Morgan's music career, but his stint on The Voice was filled with plenty of drama. Morgan survived the first battle round with his cover of Hey Brother by Avicii, but he got into trouble during the second battle round. It's unbelievable to say this, but Morgan performed a One Direction song that night. And while Morgan's cover song doesn't sound too bad now, Usher chose Morgan's competitor during the round 2 battle. Shockingly, that could have been the end of Morgan's music career. But there was a twist of fate, because Adam Levine did a last-minute steal that kept Morgan on The Voice. And while that should have been great news, that started more problems for Morgan on The Voice. He claimed that everyone on The Voice wanted him to continue singing pop music. The issue was, Morgan really was finding his own voice. Later, he decided to sing a country song. Morgan said, "Because that's what I wanted to do anyway." When Morgan went on to perform a cover of Stay by Florida Georgia Line, he got eliminated from the show in the first round of the Voice playoffs. But Morgan doesn't seem to hold a grudge about his Voice experience. In an interview with People, he even admitted that being on The Voice was a big first step. Morgan also said, "I guess that's the first time in my life where I realized that maybe I actually have a shot at this." Morgan doesn't seem to mind that he never got a real chance of winning the Voice trophy either. He said, "I'm thankful that I didn't win it because it gave me a chance to take a couple years after that show and really figure out who I was as an artist." Morgan spoke to The New Yorker a year after his People interview. At that point, he said The Voice might not have been the biggest influence in his life musically, but Morgan claimed he'd made some industry connections. And he told The New Yorker that once he started to write his own songs, it just sounded country. Morgan thought to himself, I guess I'll sing country music because this is the life I know. And maybe Florida Georgia Line was flattered that Morgan covered their tune on The Voice, because when Morgan finally got, as he called it, the right team around him in the music business, he recorded one of his country songs with some backup from Florida Georgia Line. Morgan's song Up Down, featuring Florida Georgia Line, became one of his first big country hits. And the year Morgan's album If I Know Me was released, he also got to join Florida Georgia Line on tour. There is one guy who was on The Voice that has regrets about Morgan, and that's Blake. The Country Daily reported that Blake couldn't believe he let Morgan get away when he was on The Voice. Blake said, now here he is having these gigantic, huge #1 hits, and I can't take any of the credit. Morgan just won 11 trophies at the Billboard Music Awards, and even though his sound on The Voice didn't quite cut it, his future is looking bright in country music.